Sister warned, "If you show up with him, I'm canceling," then begged my husband when the bank called about fraud. I was standing in our kitchen when that text came through, phone buzzing next to the chopping board. I had half a capsicum in one hand, knife in the other, Spotify playing quietly on the bench. My husband, Mark, was at the stove stirring pasta, humming off-key. The notification preview lit up with her name and that one line, and my stomach did that weird drop like I'd missed a step on the stairs. I wiped my fingers on a tea towel, opened the message, reread it twice because it didn't feel real, and then said, "You're not going to believe this," except my voice came out thinner than I wanted. For context, I'm 31F. My sister Jenna is 29F, and my husband Mark is 33M. Jenna and I have always had this complicated relationship. We love each other, sure, but it's always been love with sharp edges. We grew up with a single mom who worked double shifts at a nursing home, and from the time we were kids, Jenna decided her role was the favorite, and I was the responsible one. I was the one who packed lunches, signed my own permission slips, made sure the gas bill got paid when Mom forgot. Jenna was the fun one, the charming one, the one Mom bragged about to relatives, my pretty one. Even though Jenna barely passed half her classes and I was bringing home straight A's. When we were teenagers, that dynamic turned into a pattern. I would quietly handle things. She would loudly take up space. She'd borrow my clothes and return them stained. She'd ask to use my laptop for an assignment and leave 30 tabs open to online shopping and barely started Word documents. When I'd complain, Mom would sigh and say, "She's your sister, share?" Like I was being selfish for not wanting my stuff trashed. So yeah, we've always had friction. But until recently, it was mostly normal sister friction. Sniping, guilt trips, the occasional week of silent treatment after a fight. It didn't turn into this, whatever this is, until Jenna started dating Leo. Leo is 34M, all jawline and tattoos and expensive sunglasses, the kind of guy you'd expect to see leaning on a car he can't actually afford. He works in crypto and import-export and startups, depending on the day you ask him. The first time I met him, at a family barbecue, he shook my hand a little too tight and told me he'd Googled my husband's LinkedIn. "Respect, man," he'd said to Mark. "Head of fraud analytics? That's like big boy job." Mark laughed politely, but later, in the car, he said, "That guy either wants to recruit me into something illegal or he's worried I'm going to notice something about him." That's the key thing. Mark works for a bank in the fraud department. I don't fully understand all of it, but he basically analyzes suspicious transactions and flags patterns for investigation. He's that guy who actually reads terms and conditions and notices when one line doesn't match the others. He is, in many ways, Leo's natural predator. Jenna loved that Leo made money, or at least it looked like he did. Suddenly she went from living in a share house with 3 other girls to posting Instagram stories from weekend getaways and fancy restaurants. New designer bag, new watch, new nails every week. I knew how much she earned at her retail job, and those numbers did not add up. But any time I hinted at it, like, "Wow, must be nice. Can you teach me how to manifest this?" she'd laugh it off and say, "Crypto, babe, you're too square to get it." The first real crack happened at Mum's birthday dinner. We were at this mid-range Italian place, the kind with laminated menus and wine glasses that all smell faintly of old Chardonnay. Leo was loudly explaining to my uncle how the banks are dinosaurs and regulations are a scam to keep the little guy from winning, while my uncle nodded like he understood anything beyond his mortgage payment. Mark, to his credit, had been quiet all meal, except to ask the waiter about the wine list. But when Leo started in on how, if you know a guy on the inside, you can get things pushed through, his shoulders tensed. "What do you mean?" Mark asked, voice casual, but I could see his jaw working. Leo grinned. "Come on, man. You know, like if something gets flagged, you just unflag it." He flicked his wrist like it was no big deal. "That's not how any of this works," Mark said. "And if someone did do that, they'd be fired and probably charged." Leo rolled his eyes. "Depends who your friends are." He leaned forward. "Look, all I'm saying is the system screws people. Sometimes you've got to Massage it back. The table went quiet. Mum looked down at her lasagna. Jenna shot me a look like, "Don't you dare." Mark just said, very calmly, "My job is making sure the system doesn't get massaged." Later that night, Jenna called me and absolutely unloaded. "What the hell is his problem?" she snapped before I'd even said hello. "Whose?" I asked, even though I knew. "Your husband." Sitting there judging, acting like Leo's a criminal just because he doesn't sit in an office pushing paper. "He never called him a criminal," I said. "He just doesn't want to joke about fraud when that's literally his job." "You're such a snob now," she shot back. "You both are. Just because you have a mortgage and matching towels." I let that one go because she wasn't totally wrong. We are boring in ways Jenna finds offensive. We meal prep. We own a label maker. Our idea of a wild night is ordering Uber Eats and watching 3 episodes of the same show. Fast forward 6 months, and Jenna and Leo get engaged. He proposed on some rooftop bar with sparklers and a photographer hiding in the bushes. She sent me the photos and I could practically hear the Instagram caption. "I said yes to my twin flame." I cried when I saw the ring, but not in the way she wanted. It was huge. Too huge. Like either it was fake or he'd spent an irresponsible amount of money on it. The stone looked like it belonged on a real housewife's hand. Not my little sister who still forgot to pay her phone bill half the time. When she asked me to be maid of honor, she did it over brunch in the most Jenna way possible. She slid a pink box across the table that said, "Will you be my maid of honor?" in gold script, then added, "Obviously it's you. Who else would it be?" As if she hadn't spent the last year trashing my life choices. I said yes because I'm an idiot and I love her. From then on, wedding planning took over everything. Group chats, Pinterest boards, spreadsheets. She wanted this big, fancy, vineyard wedding, timeless but glamorous, which is code for expensive. Mum couldn't contribute much beyond some savings she'd scraped together, so most of it was being covered by Leo. Anytime I asked about budgets or deposits, Jenna shut me down. "Why are you always so negative?" she'd say. "Can't you just be happy for me?" Around this time, Mark started getting twitchy. Not like he was snooping on her accounts or anything. That would be illegal and he's annoyingly ethical. But he'd come home some days looking unsettled. "You know I can't tell you specifics," he'd say, untying his tie. "But I really wish your sister wasn't tied to that guy financially." "Do you think he's actually doing something illegal?" I asked once, feeling my throat close up. He hesitated. "I think he's playing very fast and loose with gray areas. And gray can turn black really quickly." I tried to talk to Jenna. I tried to be gentle. "Do you have access to your own money?" I asked while we were in a bridal shop, her standing on a little platform in a dress that cost more than my car, me holding a handful of safety pins. She frowned at her reflection. "What? Like separate accounts? Savings in your name?" "Honestly, just Google finance and divorce. It's depressing as hell." She rolled her eyes so hard I thought she might fall off the platform. "You and your anxiety porn. I'm marrying him. Not doing a business merger." "Marriage is kind of a business merger," I muttered. She glared at me. "If you show up at my wedding with a prenup binder, I'm disinviting you." So, when we finally hit the week of her bridal shower, I was already walking on eggshells. The shower was meant to be this bougie high tea at a hotel downtown. Tiny sandwiches, overpriced tea, everyone in pastels. It was also the first time a lot of Leo's relatives and friends would be meeting our side of the family. I assumed Mark would come at the end, like the cliché where the groom shows up with flowers. He was already planning to be in the city that day. It seemed like a nice way to show support, maybe smooth over the weird tension with Leo. So I texted Jenna, "Hey, Mark will swing by at the end to help me with the gifts. That okay?" The typing dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Then my phone buzzed with that message I'll probably never forget. Sister warned, "If you show up with him, I'm canceling." I actually laughed when I first read it because my brain refused to accept it was serious. Then I realized there was no winky face, no OL, no JKS. I called her. She answered on the first ring. I knew you'd call, she said, like she'd been rehearsing this scene in her head. What is that text? I asked. My voice had that tight, high quality I get when I'm trying not to cry. I mean it, she said. If he comes, I'm canceling the whole thing. I walked into the hallway so Mark wouldn't hear and leaned against the wall. Why? Because I don't want him there. Okay? She snapped. He ruins everything. He gives Leo attitude. He sits there judging everyone, and I'm not having that energy at my bridal shower. He's literally never raised his voice at anyone in your life, I said. He sits, he eats, he makes small talk with your friends about football even though he doesn't care. That's it. He's a cop for banks, she said, like that word tasted gross. It's creepy. Leo doesn't feel comfortable around him. I went cold. Why? Because he keeps making little comments, she said, about paper trails and taxes and whatever. It's passive-aggressive. I thought back to the birthday dinner. Mark hadn't been passive-aggressive. He'd been direct and a little dry, sure, but he hadn't called Leo anything. So you're forbidding my husband from coming? I said slowly. I'm asking you to respect my boundaries, she said, like she'd swallowed an Instagram therapist's post whole. This is my event. I get to decide who's there. And you're choosing your crypto fiancé being comfortable over my marriage, I said. Got it. She blew out a breath. Don't twist it. Just come alone. You'll have more fun without him anyway. You can actually relax. The thing is, I could have just told Mark. He would have understood. He would have shrugged and said, honestly, I didn't really want to go to the land of tiny sandwiches anyway. But the way she said it, the flippant, dismissive tone, hit something raw. I'm not coming alone, I said. My hands were shaking. If my husband's not welcome, I'm not welcome. There was a long silence. Then she said very carefully, if you do this, you're choosing him over your own sister. I laughed the short, ugly sound. You literally just chose your fiancé's comfort over me. Fine, she snapped, voice icy. Do what you want. But if he walks through those doors, I swear to God, I'll cancel everything. She hung up before I could respond. I stood there for a minute, staring at my own reflection in the mirror we keep in the hall. My cheeks were flushed, eyes bright, hair frizzing at the temples. Mark walked out of the kitchen, wiping his hands on a tea towel. You okay? He asked. No, I said, and then I started crying. I told him everything, ugly sobbing through parts of it. He listened, then sat on the stairs and put his head in his hands. I can stay home, he said eventually. I really don't mind. I'm not dying to go to a bunch of games where you wrap toilet paper around someone to make a wedding dress. That's not the point, I said, wiping my nose with the back of my hand. She's drawing a line, and it's not just about the shower. It's about the wedding. It's about everything. We went back and forth all night, me saying, if we cave, she'll never respect us, and then 5 minutes later saying, but I don't want to blow up her whole shower. Him saying, your family already thinks I'm the bad guy. I don't want to be the reason everyone's whispering. In the end, I texted her, I'm not coming without my husband. I love you, but this is too far. She didn't respond. The day of the shower, I half expected to wake up to a flurry of messages. Okay, fine, he can come, just don't make it weird. But my phone was stubbornly quiet. At 9 a.m., Mum called. Your sister says you're not coming, she said, stress already thick in her voice. She banned my husband, I said. I'm not doing that. Mum sighed into the phone. Can't you just attend this one thing on your own? For her. For her. I've spent months planning this thing, I snapped. I organized the cake, the decorations, the games. And now I'm not allowed to be there because he exists. There was a beat of silence. You girls, Mum muttered. You're going to be the death of me. She went without me. The shower went ahead. I saw photos later on Instagram. Jenna in white, surrounded by friends in blush pink, a stack of gifts behind her. No one would have guessed the maid of honor wasn't there. We didn't talk for 3 weeks. Now, here's where the plot twist comes in. 2 months after the shower, I was at work when my phone rang. It was Jenna. I almost didn't answer. We were still in this cold, brittle stalemate. But something about it, maybe the fact that she called instead of texting, made me pick up. "Hello." She didn't even say hi. "Where's Mark?" she blurted, voice high and tight. There was noise in the background. People talking, a printer whirring, a woman making an announcement over a PA. "At work," I said slowly. "Why? Can you get him?" She said. Please get him to call me. Right now. It's urgent." My heart started pounding. "What's going on?" "I'm at the bank," she said, and her voice cracked on the word. "They froze my accounts. They're saying there's fraud. They're saying I might have been involved. I swear to God, I didn't do anything. I just signed stuff Leo gave me. I thought it was normal, I thought." She dissolved into sobs. I stood up from my desk so fast my chair rolled back and hit the filing cabinet. "Okay, breathe," I said. "Which branch are you at?" She told me. It wasn't Mark's branch. He works in head office, but it was the same bank. I grabbed my bag, muttered something to my manager about a family emergency, and called Mark as I speedwalked to the car. He listened, very quiet, as I repeated what Jenna had said. "Do not tell her I can fix it," he said immediately. "I need you to say those exact words. I can't fix this. I can't make this go away. I can explain the process, that's it." "Okay," I said. My whole body felt like static. "But can you at least talk to her? She's freaking out." "I will," he said. "But not as the guy who can get things pushed through. As your husband who knows how this works." By the time I got to the branch, Jenna was sitting in one of those awful vinyl chairs in the waiting area. Mascara streaked down her face, clutching her handbag like it might float away. When she saw me, she launched herself at me. "I didn't do anything," she sobbed into my shoulder. "I swear I didn't. They're saying there were payments and refunds, and I don't even understand half the words they used. I just signed the forms because Leo said it was part of his business account and he needed my name for something." I rubbed her back automatically, old big sister reflex kicking in. "Okay," I said. "Okay, sit down. Breathe. Mark's going to call in a minute." She pulled back, eyes wild. "Will he help me?" she demanded. "He has to help me. Doesn't he know all the systems or whatever?" There it was. The flip. The same guy who was creepy and ruined everything was now a lifeline. "He can explain what's happening," I said carefully. "He can't illegally access your file. He can't make it go away. If he does, he could lose his job." Her face crumpled. "So he's just going to let me go to jail?" "No one said jail," I said, even though my stomach had turned to ice. "Right now, your accounts are frozen because they think there was suspicious activity. They have to investigate. That's the law." She was about to argue when my phone rang. "Mark." I put it on speaker. "Hey, Jenna," he said. His voice was calm, professional, like he was on a conference call. "First of all, I'm sorry you're going through this. It's scary. But you need to listen to me very carefully." She hiccuped. "Can you help me?" "I can explain how this works," he repeated. "But I cannot log into your accounts. I cannot talk to the staff there about your case. I cannot pull any strings. If I do, I could be charged myself. Do you understand?" There was a pause. I could see her fighting not to say something nasty. "Fine," she muttered. "Whatever. Just tell me what to do." He walked her through it, step by step, like he was explaining something to a customer. Ask for a copy of the documents she'd signed. Ask them to explain in plain language what she's being accused of. Don't sign anything else today. Ask if she can bring a support person or a lawyer to future meetings. "Is Leo there?" Mark asked at one point. Jenna's jaw tightened. "No," she said. He's in a meeting." I watched realization dawning in her eyes as she said it. "I'll come down after work if you want me there," Mark offered. "Not as a bank employee, as family." But I need you to understand that I can't magically make this disappear. I get it, she said, voice small. Thank you. We hung up. She stared at the floor for a long moment. Then she turned to me. Do you think he knew? She asked. Leo? Do you think he used me? I thought of the rooftop proposal, the ring, the way he joked about needing someone on the inside. I thought of Mark coming home looking haunted. I think he didn't care if you got hurt, I said gently. She burst into tears again. I'm such an idiot, she sobbed. And I was so horrible to you both. I banned him from my shower. I told everyone he was. I said awful things. She did. She told our cousins that Mark thought he was better than everyone, that he was obsessed with control. She told Mum that he was turning me against my own family. She told me repeatedly that if I chose him, I was abandoning her. Now she was clinging to his advice like a life raft. The investigation is still ongoing, by the way. This isn't one of those neat stories where everything wraps up in time for the credits. As of now, Jenna's accounts are only partially unfrozen. She's moved back in with Mum because the rent at her fancy apartment was being auto-debited from one of the frozen accounts. She hasn't seen Leo in weeks. He went overseas for business, right before the bank called, and has since gone mysteriously quiet. The wedding is postponed. She hasn't used the word canceled yet, but the giant Pinterest board has gone silent. In the middle of all this, she's been softer with me. It's like someone took the volume dial on her defensiveness and turned it down. She'll text me things like, "Do you think I should call a lawyer?" And then, 30 minutes later, "I'm sorry for being such a cow about the shower." She actually came over to our place last week. First time she's set foot in our house in almost a year. She stood in our hallway looking at the framed photos. Our wedding, boring holiday snapshots, Mark holding our cat, and said, "It's nice here," in this surprised tone, like she'd only ever pictured us living in some sterile, joyless IKEA catalog. When Mark got home from work, she literally stood up. "I need to say something," she blurted, before he'd even put his keys down. "I was a bitch to you. I said horrible stuff. I tried to keep you away from my life because I didn't want to hear that maybe the guy I was with was dodgy. And now the bank is treating me like some kind of criminal and you're the one helping me." He looked uncomfortable, but he sat down opposite her. "You don't have to." "I do," she said. Her eyes were shiny, but she was holding it together. "I warned her that if she showed up with you, I'd cancel my own party. And then when the bank called about fraud, you were the first person I begged to talk to me. That's messed up." He shrugged, a little helpless. "Fear makes people pick weird enemies," he said. She actually laughed, a tiny, broken sound. "You were never the enemy," she said. "I just didn't want to admit that maybe Leo was." There was a long, heavy silence. Then she looked at me. "I don't expect you to forgive me," she said, "but I'm really, really sorry. Here's the thing. I do still love her. I don't know how not to. She's my little sister, the kid who used to sneak into my bed during thunderstorms, who'd beg me to braid her hair and then complain I was pulling too hard. I also don't fully trust her judgment, and I'm still angry about the months she spent tearing down my marriage because it made her insecure." So I nodded. "Thank you for saying that," I said. "It meant a lot to Mark that you asked for his help, even if the situation sucks." Mark nodded, confirming it. "I'm on your side," he said. "And I'm on the bank's side. I know that sounds contradictory, but my side is the truth. If you didn't do anything knowingly, that matters." She swallowed. "I didn't," she said. "I swear." "I believe you," he said. "And I also believe you signed things without reading them because you trusted someone you shouldn't have. That's not a crime. It's just exactly how this kind of thing happens. We're not magically healed." She still has moments where she gets defensive and snappy, especially when Mum makes comments like, "If only you'd listened to Mark earlier." She hates feeling like a cautionary tale. But something fundamental shifted that day in the bank, when she realized the person she tried to exile from her life was the only one calmly explaining the nightmare she was in. For me, the weirdest part is how quickly the narrative flipped. 1 month, Mark is creepy for working in fraud. The next, Mum is bragging to her friends that my son-in-law works for the bank and he's helping Jenna. It's like that bridal shower fight exists in a parallel universe only I remember vividly. Sometimes I lie awake replaying it all, my thumb hovering over the message where she said, "If you show up with him, I'm canceling." Me choosing, for once, not to throw my husband under the bus for the sake of keeping the peace. Jenna sobbing in that vinyl chair, begging Mark through my phone to tell her she wasn't going to prison. I don't know yet what our relationship will look like 5 years from now. Maybe she'll do the hard work, go to therapy, figure out why she equates being loved with being rescued by men with money. Maybe she'll slip back into old habits, and I'll have to set firmer boundaries. Maybe the wedding will eventually happen with someone entirely different, in a backyard with fairy lights instead of a vineyard with a donut wall. What I do know is this. I'm glad I chose Mark when she forced that choice. I'm glad he picked the harder path, the ethical one, even when everyone wanted him to be a magic fixer. And I'm weirdly grateful that when the bank called about fraud, life handed my sister a mirror she couldn't look away from. She got to see who actually showed up when things went sideways. Spoiler. It wasn't the guy with the flashy ring and the crypto hustle. It was the boring fraud analyst in the sensible shoes. The one she didn't want in the room until the room was on fire.